programs about our history. And this means a lot to me to see people here to come out. Thank you. There's a lot of confusion about the different days set aside to honor our military. Memorial Day is set aside to honor and respect the men and women who gave their lives in service to our country. Armed Forces Day is set aside to honor all our current members in the various services that are there today. Veterans Day, however, is set aside to respect, recognize, and thank those who have answered the call to defend our freedoms. The first official Armistice Day was declared by President Woodrow Wilson November the 11th, 1919. It marked the first anniversary of the armistice for the end of World War I. Fighting had ceased on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. The day was intended to be a celebration of peace and to honor those who served in the Great War. In 1938, Congress passed a resolution making November 11th a legal federal holiday dedicated to world peace and to be known as Armistice Day. However, it was made a national holiday in 1938 after World War II when the U.S. Representative Ed Rees proposed changing the name to honor all U.S. military veterans. President Eisenhower signed a bill in 1954 changing the name to Veterans Day and expanding its purpose to honor all who have served. Over the years, I keep getting surprised when I find out that people I thought I knew well not only served in the military, but distinguished themselves as well. That is why today I've titled this program, Heroes Among Us. Many years ago, as a young man, I was known to frequent Rocus's Hotel on the weekend, looking at the girls, listening to good music, and having a few cold ones as well. I got to know the bartender very well, Vince Symons. Not only there, but also he was a customer out at Kazura Chevrolet where I had been working. He served in the Army for 21 years. He retired as a master sergeant. He was a survivor of the attack on Pearl Harbor. I never knew he was a member of the 25th Infantry Division, and he received 4 battle stars: Pearl Harbor, Guadalcanal, Vella La Vella in the Solomon Islands, and in 1943 and 45 in the Philippines. He received several medals, including 4 Bronze Stars, the Infantry Combat Badge, a Bronze Arrowhead, numerous different area commendations, the World War II Victory Medal, the Presidential Unit Citation, and the Philippine Independence Ribbon. I never knew this from this quiet man until he passed away in 2012, and I read his obituary. So here I am, 50 years later, and again, surprised. Many thanks to Dora Santarelli. Where did she go? There she is in the back. Dora, I got a program ready for tonight, and then Janie dropped off some clippings from Dora up at Ponch's, and I started reading them. I said, boy, I got to rewrite this. There's too much good stuff here. After the program, if you come up, all these, what do you call that when you put them in plastic? Laminated sheets up there. That's where I got a lot of the information for tonight. People many of us knew or know from our area have a distinguished past in the military, and here are some of them. From what I've been able to find, Peter Anderson, who we may remember as a state policeman in our area, was a PFC in the Army. He served in the 275th Regiment of the 70th Division, known as the Trailblazers. He was part of the winter campaign of the Battle of the Bulge, was captured, spending the last 9 months of the war as a POW in Stalag 5A in Ludwigsburg, Germany. He was a state policeman before he went into service, and he returned to its ranks when he returned. My next door neighbor during high school was a Symons, second-class Guy Razzie. He served with distinction in the South Pacific with the U.S. Navy. I would never have thought of this, as I remember him as the quiet man who tended his garden next to our house. Another neighbor and a father of a good friend of the same name was James Calderon, who served on a light cruiser in the South Pacific. 4 brothers named Laudeman, Michael, Noel, Elvin, and William, who I knew as Billy, and a Little League coach in the 60s, served in the Army in World War II. Two more brothers, George and Earl Beener, one in the Air Corps, the other a combat engineer in New Guinea. I remember George working in the A&P store, and Earl was one of my paper route customers on Sunbury Street. Another one of my paper route customers and a father of a classmate was Private Daniel Thomas. He also had two brothers in the service at the same time, Arthur with the Field Artillery in Italy and Reynard in the Navy. Rennie you may remember as the chief of police in Minersville when we were growing up, who also had two sons in the service. Master Sergeant Rennie Jr., a Vietnam vet, he served 25 years in the Air Force, and Reverend James, who retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. George Omer, who I knew not only as the fire chief in town, but also worked in construction with George R. Lynn and Reading Anthracite. He served in Europe during the war with the combat engineers. You remember Kenny Brennan from the newspaper. He was employed by the paper when World War II broke out and served in the infantry as an officer with heavy weapons training. Saturday mornings, you may find me at the Jonestown Coffee Shop, where I catch up on the local news with Ponch Angelo as host. Anyone who passes there in warmer weather will see him and others out front on chairs, solving the problems of the world and waving at each and every vehicle that passes by. Ponch, where Frank, as the military knew him, spent 22 years in the Air Force, retiring as a master sergeant, but then went on to serve as the communications advisor for the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the Pentagon from 1980 through 2007, serving under and knowing 8 different Chiefs of Staff, including Colin Powell, as he traveled every corner of the earth. As an amateur historian, when doing research, you tend to go down the proverbial rabbit hole, where one turn ends up taking to another. The one thing that I always find is constant about the military in the coal region is that there's always duty, family, and country in the background. You often hear people say that the oath of enlistment never expires. For those who never took it, it goes like this. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to the regulations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. Millions of men and women have sworn this oath in the decades since. As many veterans have reminded me, there's no termination date specified in the oath. No time limit to the commitment. It's as if the oath, once taken, sticks for life, even if the term of service has ended. That goes a long way explaining what makes veterans special. They're people who have pledged themselves to something greater, and they carry that commitment wherever they go. In closing, I have one more name to give you, a close friend and a charter member of the Historical Society. I first knew of him as a stranger who I saw wheeling his 90-year-old mother around town in a wheelchair, getting her out of the house for fresh air. We later became friends when the society organized, and we spent many a Saturday selling Christmas ornaments or daily number chances outside the various supermarkets in the area. We walked the town and the cemeteries, tracing our local history, and on occasion after church on Sunday, enjoying breakfast at the local firehouses. It was at these times that I learned of what he did as a young man. He was lucky enough to get a ROTC scholarship to Penn State, where he earned a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. He earned his wings at Pensacola and became a naval aviator. I once made the mistake of calling him a pilot, and that's much like referring to a Marine as an ex-Marine. You do not do that. He'd straighten me right out. He flew all types of planes all over the world, the Mediterranean, Vietnam, to the Gulf waters during the missile crisis, the Cuban Missile Crisis, on and off aircraft carriers in all the oceans of the world. He witnessed the landings and recovery of 2 different astronauts in missions in time as they ferried every rank of sailor from seaman to admiral on missions as needed. He was a proud veteran and wore his Navy cap everywhere. And the license plate on the front of his car proudly proclaimed, Fly Navy. He passed away recently at the age of 92 while visiting his daughter in California. Next week at Arlington National Cemetery, Lieutenant Commander James Donald Stutz will be laid to rest with military honors. Tonight, on behalf of his family, I'm proud and honored to present to the Society some of his naval artifacts so he and other veterans may be remembered in the future. As I said in the beginning, heroes among us. You never know what that person you pass may have done for our country. So if you see someone with a service hat or a t-shirt with military images, take a minute to think what he may have seen and what he might have sacrificed so that you may be free, and thank him. If you will, how about all our veterans that are here tonight? Please stand up. How about a round of applause? Thank you and good night. Before I go, one last veteran I got my son, 82nd Airborne, Iraqi War veteran. I thank him too. Good night, everybody. Thank you.